Hey Exile, PoE Academy here. 3.21 is about to start and it's time again, picking your league starter and then progressing the acts, the campaign and the endgame. If you're playing Trade League, you have access to, well, trade, but from my experience, many people don't know how to use it properly, so I wanted to share my universal method for finding the perfect offensive items for my builds for the budget I'm willing to pay. It's worth noting that you only need PoB and the official trade site for this method, and it works particularly well for weapons, jewels and jewelry, so the items where most of your offensive stats go. First of all, you need a build in PoB. Set the 3 items and everything to the mid-game or end-game setup. You don't want to be setting it to the leveling setup, because in this case you would be searching for items that are good for your leveling setup and not your end-game setup. You then go to the items page and click on trade for these items. Now click on find best for your desired slot, and in the new window you might add a maximum buyout or leave it as it is. I usually leave it blank because you have to tweak the search somehow anyways, which we will talk about in a minute. Click execute and wait for PoB to do its magic. Finally, copy the new link to the right to the trade website. On the trade website, you can find a new field underneath the stats of each item, which is called sum. If you click show filters, you can see that a new weighted sum search group was added to this specific search. You have to understand that there are 5 different search groups in the official trade website. The first one is an AND group, which means that all stats in the group must be on the resulting item. The second group is a NOT group, which means that none of the stats in the group must be on the resulting item. The third one is an if group. It shows items only with the stats in the group, but only within the ranges specified. The fourth one is a count group, which shows items with as many stats in the group as specified. Finally, there is the weighted sum group, which calculates a sum for an item depending on all the stats on the items and the stat weight you've given each mod. Now, don't worry, you don't need to understand the mathematical foundations of this, and only have to remember that the higher the sum, the better the item is for your specific build. Now, back in the search, you want to sort for sum, and you can see the item with the best fit for your specific build. I tend to double check if this is really true by copying the item in trade and pasting it into the item window in PoB to see how it affects my build. Usually you are constrained by a budget when buying items, so you shouldn't be setting a maximum buyout very early into a league. However, the more mature it becomes, the more necessary such filter becomes. Let's assume you want to buy jewels, but you only want or can spend 30C or less for each one of them. Set the maximum buyout to 30C for this search again, and sort after sum. This way you have the best bang for your specific budget. If you want to filter out bad results, you can use the minimum value of the weighted sum group to filter out all results below the threshold. As a rule of thumb, I usually set the minimum value of the group to 75% of the value from the best result I get, but it can happen that you have to play around a little bit with this. I've been creating such searches, especially for jewels, for all of my league starters since the last, 10 leagues or so. And whenever the league starts, I start a live search with the resulting trade link to see when an upgrade for my build in my desired price range pops up. If you don't want to use the item yourself, you could also use this method to flip items, by the way. This is where you could subscribe to the channel and stop watching the video, but usually the results aren't as good as you'd like them to be, because usually you have to tweak the first iteration a little bit. What if, for example, you need different stats than in your weighted sum group? The search also only considers damage mods, right? So how do you make searches more granular? In general, you want to show filters and then add or edit stat groups. I will walk you through a couple of applications I encounter regularly to give you a better idea on what you could be doing. Let's say you want to have a jewel with a life mod and any useful damage mods. In this case, you want to add an AND group with the increased life modifier and keep the weighted sum group as it is. Sometimes you get a pop-up that the search has become too complex, and in this case you start removing the mods in the weighted sum group with the lowest weighting. Before searching again, you want to reevaluate your maximum buyout and also your minimum weighted sum value if they were set, and then sort it after sum again. Let's pick another example. You're looking for a ring with either strength or intelligence and any useful damage mods. In this case, you want to add a count group with strength and intelligence and set the minimum group value to 1. You also want to keep the weighted sum group as it is, except the search becomes too complex, which is when you start removing mods as described in the first example. Now you rinse and repeat, reevaluate your maximum buyout and potentially also your minimum weighted sum value and sort after sum again. Okay, so let's combine the former two examples. You're looking for an amulet with life, an open prefix, either cold or lightning resistance, and any useful damage mod. How do you approach this? You start by adding an AND group with the life and the empty prefix modifier stats. Now set the minimum value of the empty prefix modifier stat, not the whole group, to 1, and also add another count group with cold resistance and lightning resistance, and set the minimum value of the whole group to 1. Now again, you want to keep the weighted sum group, except your search becomes too complex, in which case you know what to do already. As you can see, searches can become as complex as you want them to be, but remember that many roads lead to Rome, so just make sure that the results really fit what you are looking for. I've sniped more than 100 items for my builds using this method, and all were perfect fits for them and my budget, so hopefully you can make use of this from now on too. If you have any questions, drop them in the comments. Happy hunting, Exile, and see you in the next one.